Hello and welcome to Amazing Stories from the Hood, Episode 2. I'll be your host today. My name is Brian. If you're just tuning in, then you should know that these are stories loosely based on real life. This story begins in 2005, and it's around the 4th of July. Now this year, the 4th of July fell on a Monday, and because of that, everybody had money to buy food for cooking out. And you all know the most popular food for cooking out in the hood is short ribs. So because everybody is buying up the short ribs, the people who needed them the most couldn't get them. And they ran the Chinese food place. But this one had recently changed its name to Fukushu. Now that was a little odd because most times when you get a place in the hood, they just call it Chinese food number 1 or number 5 or number 7. And they had been in the same spot for 20 years. So not being able to get short ribs around the 4th of July was nothing new to them. And they had a remedy for the situation rather than close down shop. So about a week before the 4th of July, they start serving sausage gravy over rice. And they made it cheaper to buy than chicken wings, so people used to buy that a lot. So this became a regular item on the menu at Fukushu, and Fukushu stayed open until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They used to catch all the club crowd, and the most popular dish was sausage and gravy over rice. Because of that, business was booming. Just before the 4th of July in 2005, Fukushu announced a promotion they would be putting on, and it was called Customer Appreciation Weekend to drum up business around the 4th of July when business dropped off so much. It involved giving away free sausage and gravy over rice each weekend to their customers, but the catch was they gave it only to a certain race each weekend. So the first weekend after the 4th of July, the black customers got free sausage and gravy over rice. The second weekend after the 4th, the Latin customers got free sausage and gravy over rice. And the third weekend after the 4th, all Middle Eastern customers got free sausage and gravy over rice. And Fukushu made sure to tell them it was no pork. And the fourth weekend after the 4th of July, all white customers got free sausage and gravy over rice. Well, this definitely did the trick, and their customers increased tenfold. People were coming from all around for their free weekend of food. In fact, it even made the news. Fukushu's business was booming. Now in the hood, you never call a Chinese food place a restaurant. You call it a Chinese food place, or a Chinese food joint, or you call it the Chinese food spot. That's because in the hood, you don't have no places like fine dining inside. You just get your food and you go. But during this promotion, they had people lined up outside waiting to get in. And that was just fine with the brothers because there was a whole bunch of new faces in the hood. That translated into a whole bunch of new customers for the dealers and a whole bunch of new victims for the thugs. It was a good time to be in the hood. Everybody making money. And that's how it went for a few weeks. One thing that's unique about the homeless in the hood, we call them bums, is that they have a special role to play. They're the ones that always taking care of the senior citizens' yards. They're cutting somebody's grass. They're moving furniture for somebody. They're always helping out somebody, and they're getting paid either in liquor or drugs or something. So around the third week in July, we noticed that the bums were missing. Hadn't nobody seen them for a few weeks. So a few people went out looking, and they found them in their usual hangout spots, and they found them curled up in their cardboard houses, dead. Well, it's not uncommon for 1 or 2 of them to be dead. To find most all of them dead in their places where they would sleep, word got out that somebody was killing the homeless in the neighborhood. And everybody started thinking it had to be some of these customers coming to Fukushu from everywhere. So the neighborhood went on an unofficial lockdown and nobody was doing nothing with nobody else. Then collectively, you started to realize that it wasn't just the bums. There was a lot of other people dying too. Albeit slowly, they were dying. Now, people in the hood don't have a whole lot of insurance and ain't going to be running to the doctor when they get sick. And a lot of people, come to find out, had been sick for a week, throwing up so much until they dehydrated and died. But nobody really paid much attention because it went under the radar. It was, dealers and street people like that who were dying. And it was always assumed that it was rival gangs or things like that. But it was when the white people all over town started dying from the same vomiting and dehydration that others started to take notice. Word spread that there was a virus going around and it was killing people, and if you felt sick or anything like that, to report immediately to the hospital. And people reported to the hospital in large numbers. The doctors, suspecting a virus or a bacteria of some kind, started to do all they could, and it was in vain. People were still dying even in the doctor's care. Several weeks had passed. It was while trying to track down the cause and issue a correct diagnosis that the doctors found the only thing these people had in common was that they had all eaten at Fukushu. So medical reports were filed and the health department was alerted, and as is common with bureaucracy, it took a couple of weeks before the health department showed up at the door of Fukushu. An inspection was performed and Fukushu passed with flying colors. No trace or no evidence, nothing suspicious was discovered. The health department gave Fukushu a clean bill and it was allowed to continue operating. By this time, the customer appreciation weekend that Fukushu was running had come to an end. At the same time, the reports from the autopsies were coming back and a definitive cause of death is identified as blowfish poison, which is served in high-end Japanese restaurants under strict conditions to prevent fatalities. So the medical staff at this point takes all of their information and findings to the police. After several attempts, the medical staff is able to get an audience with the chief of police, and they show and explain the details of their findings and why they feel Fukushu is at the center of it all. So first thing, the very next morning, a squad of police cars show up at Fukushu and attempt to gain entrance. But because it's so early in the morning, the business is not open yet. The lights are out, the blinds covering the windows are closed, doors are locked, and no one's there. This is what causes the police to discover that the current owner of Fukushu had only recently purchased the business from the previous Chinese owners and was a Japanese citizen visiting the U.S. on a visa. And because he had no legal rights to own a business, they were able to make entry into Fukushu. When they got inside, they found everything was gone. The place was completely empty, and they later found that in addition to being just empty, it was also wiped down completely. There was no trace of anyone who had ever been in that store. It was later that day, while the police were filling out the report of the incident, that a messenger came to the police department for the lead investigating officer of the Fukushu case. The officer had to sign for receipt of the letter by signing his name and the date. The messenger handed the officer the clipboard, whereupon the officer signed his name and asked the messenger what was today's date. The messenger replied, August the 6th, and handed the officer the envelope. The officer took the unopened envelope to his chief, explained that a messenger dropped it off and who it was dropped off to. The chief expressed his understanding and advised the officer to go ahead and open the envelope. Once opened, the officer took out the folded piece of paper, unfolded it, and read it. And on that piece of paper, he read aloud, Happy Hiroshima Day. And underneath that was written, Fukushu means revenge in Japanese. So let me thank you for taking a minute out your day and hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you back for episode 3 of Amazing Stories from the Hood.